we want them as a defense or a team. So, when things like that happen, you have to adjust and make some changes. So, I know DQ talked about earlier in the week that I will be coming down to the field. I went and asked him to do that for a number of reasons. The first reason I've been in the box, Q, most of the coordinators that I've been around called it from the box. Q, Capers, Mike Pettin. Even when I was in college, the guys, the coordinators always called it from the box. You have a good view. You can see. You don't really have to have as much help with personnel, people coming in and out. So that's why the advantage of being in the box. Moving to the field, I think the energy that I have in practice that can be probably positive within the game for the players. A couple of the guys have been asking for me to come down as well. And so I think it's time for that to happen. We got to do whatever we have to do to get a win. And so the play has not been, especially this last week, to the standard at all. And like I said, that starts with me. I got to do a better job getting the coaches to get the players to understand how we're going to do it. And we got to get this thing turned. We got to get it turned right now. So with that, any questions?
So going down to the field, are there examples that you even can look back on and say, if I had been down there, maybe I could have affected it this way, whether it's a call, whether it's something, confusion or anything like that?
No. I don't think from that standpoint. I think I'm going, because you can look back and hindsight is 20/20, okay? And I'm not going to sit here and say that, okay, if I would have been down there before, this thing would have been different. I'm not going to say that. I'm going to say that we're going to try something different because the results that we've been getting aren't good enough, And so if you keep doing the same thing you've been doing, we've changed the way we practice. We've changed our walkthroughs, the meeting structures, the voiceovers that we send them. We're trying to find offense, defensively, and special teams, the whole team. We're trying to get out of this rut that we're in. And but my focus is on the defense, and it hasn't been near good enough. So this is a change that I wanted to make.
Then without Marshawn, how do you envision the cornerbacks looking out there? Will Mikey go outside? How do you envision that?
We'll see that on game day. I'm not going to say who's going to go where. That's a competitive advantage, but I hate that we're losing Marshawn. I will say that.
Do you lose, aside from just having sort of an aerial view there? Do you lose much by going from the booth to the sideline?
You just can't see as well, and so when I'm in the box, I don't have to. Like I said, you always have a guy telling personnel, what I'm saying? So I can see, I did personnel years in Green Bay, so I can see guys running in and out so I can get a call in quicker. On the field, you can't see it as well. You can't see if the ball's on the hash or in the middle as well when you're on the field where you can see it. So if you have certain calls that are predicted by the hash or the middle of the field, so things like that. But, we have guys we're going to adjust and we're going to work around it.
And I know you guys don't want to use injuries as any sort of excuse, but when you go through 3 defensive ends. What sort of challenge is that when you're trying to coach up guys that arrive in season and trying to keep some continuity there?
Yeah, and I never make excuses when we come up here, but, the injuries are real. You lose those 3 guys. You lose Will at safety. You lose, now Marshawn. You had Quan's going in and out. So, but that's part of football, what I'm saying? And we have to be able to generate pressure on the quarterback. Once the 8 went out, we haven't generated as much pressure. Probably have to do a little bit more. I think on first and second down, I think we send the second most pressure in the league. So, but we might have to send more, do a little bit of things. But I don't want to expose the back end as much. So there's a balance there. But losing those guys, it has affected the way it's called some.
Hey, Coach. Jonathan Jones had been able to be back into the lineup. Could you talk a little bit about having him back and what he's going to bring to this defense?
Well, first, he's a veteran player that still has real speed. He comes from that Patriot system, so he understands a broad variety of football. He's a guy that can play inside and outside. He can hold vertical control. He's tough. He tackles well. So he gives a lot of versatility to where if we need to put him outside or inside, we can put him in those spaces.
And could you talk a little bit about, you said that you all are trying everything to try to work through this skid to get over it. Are you seeing some of the same things showing up each week that you're surprised about?
Surprised or disappointed, or I would say from the standpoint of the explosives. We didn't give up explosives last year. Hell, we were the best in the league in my time in Dallas and giving up the fewest explosives. I'm not used to it. So the amount of explosives that we're giving up in the past game is really frustrating because they're coming from mistakes that really shouldn't happen. And I got to do a better job, or we got to do a better job of getting that communicated. And so that's probably the main thing.
I wanted to ask about Mikey Sanders, still just his performances here, but also specifically on Horton's second touchdown, the 25-yarder, where he kind of ran past Mikey. What was sort of the play there? I don't know if that was on him or not, but what was the play there?
We were in a man coverage. It's actually a double. All right, we were doubling 11 there, and there was a communication error between two other guys. And so, but that didn't really affect Mikey. On that play, he got beat off the line of scrimmage and then got beat to the 7. So, but the communication error with the other two guys had nothing to affect on him. It wouldn't have changed that play. We had to do a better job of playing man coverage in that area.
And to the point of just like how you think he has done this year, I know you're not going to tell us right now who's going to play on the outside or the slot, but from a bigger picture perspective, I know you guys drafted him thinking he could be a slot, but he was effective last year on the outside. How do you kind of balance what you need to do right now to help this defense versus long haul, hey, we might want to view him as this piece, but we keep moving around? Yeah,
we're going to put people in position to where we feel like gives us the best chance to win. He's produced, 3 interceptions. He's produced the ball from, he can do it from inside. Last year he did from outside. So, but we're definitely going to put people in the position that we feel that can, best serve us to win that particular game. And then when we get to the next game, we'll move from there.
What was your reaction to the Frankie Louvu suspension/fine? And I guess moving forward with him, how do you ensure that the hip drop tackle issue isn't still a problem?
Yeah, it takes me back to when they started doing the targeting rule, and as coaches, everybody fought it at the beginning. Where in this environment, we don't necessarily fight it. We ask the league, all right, help us teach it better, okay? Because they're difficult plays to that's why you don't see a lot of flags on them that you really find, because they're difficult plays to regulate. And so, we're talking about, and we're working drills, one more step, how not to throw your body into it. But it's a fast, violent game, and the player safety is the number one thing, and we understand that. And just like with the targeting, how we've changed the way that we hit the quarterback, how you don't fall on the quarterback, this is a new change. So the defensive players will catch up to it, but it is a difficult thing for the defensive players especially when somebody's running away from you and you get to them and somebody might hit them from the opposite side, and natural reaction is you go that way. But it's something that we're going to have to learn as coaches and as players to navigate through, because that's where the league is going.
I know he didn't play last week as much, but Jordan McGee the last few weeks has played more than he did, earlier in his career. What sort of development have you seen from him as he's gotten more playing time?
Jordan has been a really bright spot, even on gloomy days that we've had on some of these. His run and hit ability, you feel his speed, you see the balance. He's constantly punching at the ball once he gets there. His drops have been good, so we got to make sure we just keep putting packages where he's on the field and he's adding to what we do. I've been pleased with him.
Joe, you talked about changing all of these things, changing walkthroughs, changing practices. How aggravating, I guess, has all of this been for you personally, and what is left for you to change? I guess, are there other things that you've changed in the past that you could eventually kind of move to and try?
The aggravating thing is we're not winning. We're not playing a good brand of a ball holistically and defensively at all. I mean, the last 4 weeks, I wouldn't have thought that we would have been playing the way that we have been, and so that's where I am with that right now. And we're looking at everything, and like I said, it starts with me. I don't dodge anything. I don't think I've ever came up here and made any excuses or put it on the players or put it on anybody else. It's my job to get the defense to play at a better level, and I haven't done that. So I got to do a better job, and trust me, just working at it every which way, and we'll get it figured out. We got to get it figured out now if we're going to get this season back on track.
And you said you're trying to get out of this rut. What's the challenge with an offense like Detroit's coming Sunday as you try to correct things?
Yeah, I usually start the press conference with the other team's offense, and it starts with the quarterback. He throws with anticipation. He's calm in the pocket. His eligibles, 14, 11, they had just won. They have just so much speed and versatility from that standpoint right there. And then the running backs, you have two different types of running backs, one that can get on the edge right now and go, and then you have a guy that runs a little bit more behind his pads. Offensive line, they have one of the best tackles in football, and they move people. And then I think, the tight end Laporta, I think he's just – in my opinion, he's one, two, three top tight ends in the league. I have a lot of respect and regard for his ability. We talk about it and somebody say this guy's better. I don't know if there's a guy that I can say necessarily is a better tight end than him from a skill set standpoint. I think he's really talented.
And then just curious, after the disappointing performance Sunday night, have you seen anything from your guys, your players, like at practice or meetings or anything like that that's different after Sunday?
Well, we changed the structure of the meetings. We changed not necessarily the structure of the practice. The practice is the same, but the structure of the meetings, adding more walkthroughs, doing more voiceovers so they can come to work ready instead of just come to work. If so they have homework assignments, and in that standpoint of, all right, you're getting your voiceovers, so we could take the meeting and split some of that meeting time out and put it on the field and do extra walkthroughs, more plays, and then we'll catch it back up in the classroom towards the evening. So, like I said, we're exhausting everything that we can to get this thing turned. And like DQ said, the only people that can get it turned are the people in the building. And so we're working at it.
Hey, Coach, you mentioned already about the significance and the importance of being on the field, bringing your energy and whatnot. You also talked about the importance of being up top to kind of see what's happening as a defensive coordinator. Was there ever a time earlier in this season where you thought maybe your intensity and what you can bring down on the field with the players could have been something you could have done earlier than this point in time?
No, I really didn't, because the viewpoint of seeing things from up top. I trust my coaches on the field, communicate well with them on the field. It's at the point where, like I said, a couple of players came and asked, hey, could you do this? Would you think about doing it? And once I heard that from them, okay, I went to Q and said, Q, hey, let's look at it. Let me go down there and they might make a difference.
Nick, your last one. Just the general personnel changes, injuries, whatever, and then you guys sort of pared things back a little bit to simplify it. Is your defense or the way you envision it significantly different now than what you wanted from the start?
Yeah, that's a really good question. It's somewhat different. It's not where I envision it to be from a schematic standpoint, but we had to change some things because of, some because of injury and some because of this year the explosives. So you have to adjust. You can't just keep doing and giving up things. But it's different than what I was expecting. Yes.
Thanks, Coach.
All right, y'all have a great one. Okay.